And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. I am JTH. Somehow, some way, movie battleground people thought that I was the perfect choice to host a wrestling debate show. But be that as it may, it's kind of ironic. This very first match in this first round of going to crown this Chokeslam Wrestling Debate Championship is kind of one that I'm familiar with. For those that don't know, back in the days of yore, I actually did host my own wrestling debate show. And ironically enough, the very first match that I did were the two people that are going to compete in this one, Malcolm Lay and Harley Boric. So it's deja vu all over again. Here we are, first match of the new wrestling debate, and we've got Malcolm Lay and Harley Boric. My time flies, and it seems like nothing's ever changed except Roman Reigns is still a main eventer, and nobody likes him, apparently. So nothing's changed. So without further ado, let's get into some pre-match interviews. Let's start with the first person that was drawn for this competition. Malcolm Lay, you were hoping that you would get selected for this, and then I'll be darned, you were the very first person selected. I don't know how that worked out, but congratulations. So how does it feel to be the very first name that got introduced to the new wrestling debate competition?
I was surprised because I'd never got into any other tournaments. So I thought, oh yeah, mate, I'm probably going to have to wait. But I'm excited. I'm here to have fun and try to win. I'll probably lose, but yeah.
Well, I hope you didn't just give a spoiler because they can just then skip to the ending. But other than that, let's go to your opponent, someone who you're obviously familiar with because you're no stranger to this competitor in terms of wrestling debating. Harley Boric. Now, the last time we did one of these, we did it on your channel. So a lot of people claim that you cheated. I wasn't one of them, though. So, yeah, you giving that look. It was on your channel. I remember I saw it. So now there's no home field advantage. It's on a level playing field. What do you think your chances are of potentially winning this match and maybe even potentially going all the way?
Well, first, you said nothing much has changed. If you watch that first one, you'll see me under a different name. A lot has changed with me since back then, because that was 2 years ago. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Everyone knows, I'm a huge wrestling fan, especially the history of wrestling. I just love it, and I just trying back debating again. It's been a while since I've done a debate match. And Malcolm's another one of the guys I've known in these leagues for a long time now. And I'm happy to compete. Hopefully, if I can win this, hopefully I can finally, I'm hoping for a potential finals match with Nico, but I know I have to get through Malcolm first, so.
That you do, and I'm really looking forward to this match, as I'm sure our two judges on hand are as well. So here's a brief lowdown of how this is going to work, because it's a little bit different from the traditional movie battleground format. It's going to be a first to three, even though there are 4 main round questions. So there is a possibility that all 4 questions may not get used. Hopefully, for everybody's enjoyment, that does happen, because I think we've got some great questions on here tonight. So it's going to be traditional, opening arguments, 5-minute debate period, and then a closing argument. Now, there is another catch that has also been thrown in that I think a couple of the other leagues are using as well. At any point, either of our players can choose to use a 1-minute extension on either their opening or closing argument that they can use just for themselves, and it's not integrated into the actual debate period. So other than that, let's have a good time here tonight, and let's get into the first question of the brand new Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Currently, it's not very good, but the end. So let's talk about some of the great stuff that's happened in the history of Monday Night Raw. We want to ask both of our players, what is the best match that has ever happened on Monday Night Raw? So, Malcolm, you were the first person that was drawn. The floor is yours. What did you select as the best match in Monday Night Raw history?
Well, the match that I picked was Cena versus CM Punk from 2013 that happened on February 25th. This was a really great match, and it showcased a lot of all their wrestling ability, and like it even had Cena going outside of his 5 moves of doom and actually had a Hurricanrana as well. So it's one of those ones which it's really exciting to watch, and it's one that I can probably go back and watch over and over again, unlike the one my opponent brought up, which I'm not going to spoil here.
I'm not going to lie. I'm actually not surprised that this match was brought up in this conversation, because it definitely is one of the great matches of Raw's history. But let's see what Harley will have to counter for her best match of Monday Night Raw.
Well, for my match, I chose one that has a lot of history, a lot of impact, and it was the first real like street fight hardcore match on Raw that brought in everything that you see with weapons and everything like that. There, of course, you had the reveal of a brand new character, a third face, if you will. And it's these two guys have had an epic feud all throughout the year of 1997, and that's the debut of Cactus Jack and the street fight between Cactus Jack and Triple H.
All right, I like both matches very much, so I'm very looking forward to hearing what both of our players are going to bring to this debate. So the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins speaking.
The problem I really have with the street fights is, especially on TV. I mean, it's really good. It's one of those matches in which it can get really boring to watch at times, because there isn't a lot of the time. There isn't a lot of actual wrestling, and it's more showcasing their extreme moves and all that. And the thing that makes Cena versus Punk stand out is it actually showcased their wrestling, and it showed pure wrestling talent and two great wrestlers of that time going at it.
Yeah, at that time period, though, just like if you want to, for that time period, you want to see the really good John Cena CM Punk match, you go to the one they had on pay-per-view with the big CM Punk's contract expiring, CM Punk winning the title. I to see that whole thing take place right there, that's a better match. But it's for Raw. Yeah, no, the match you said was okay. I don't really remember it too much actually. But just like with Triple H and Mick Foley at the time, it went from a feud with Mankind, starting at the King Ring, and then Dude Love was doing a little bit thing but Dude Love was teaming with Austin. So and Mankind was feuding with Triple H, but like you had the big epic reveal of the three faces of Foley on the Titantron. Mankind, Dude Love introducing Cactus Jack. You've heard the legend of Cactus Jack. Yes, there was a lot of it was a street fight. It's Cactus Jack. You're going to have a lot of. It told a good the story there was Triple H scared as hell about the legend of Cactus Jack, and Cactus Jack having a really good debut, and of course fighting all over the place. The first time that you really saw fighting throughout the arena with Cactus Jack and Triple H, and then of course with the finish being the pile driver through a table up on the stage. Everything like that, like it's just one of the matches that I really, really enjoy. The pre-match, the match itself, and even Cactus Jack taking himself out to take out Triple H, to pretty much for that time period end the feud with Triple H, with the whole Mick Foley versus Triple H feud.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, for that time period, yeah, it works. But like at that time, there was also not a lot of pay-per-views and stuff, but I mean, they could do.
They were doing one a month.
Yeah, but even then, like, it's one of those ones, like, there's been a lot better street fights since that one. But the thing is, with Cena versus Punk, the story that they actually told throughout the match, itself wasn't true, but like it was one that, like, the commenters were constantly saying that Cena had never been able to beat Punk in a match when it actually counted for something, because, as you know, this was a number one contenders match to face The Rock at Mania. So, and the fact that they used that as the story for the match itself, as opposed to sort of focusing on a big feud that had already been spanned for a good period of time. The match itself told a really great story.
Yeah, I get. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't really remember the match itself too much. Just like I didn't get a chance to go back rewatching because I originally thought that your match was John Cena versus Shawn Michaels, but which is my fault. But it just the Triple H Cactus Jack match. It was the combination of the feud. It was the big reveal of a brand new character, and it brought the pretty much hardcore, the true essence of what is a hardcore match, or a good hardcore match. Sorry, you could see a lot of bad hardcore matches, but it just like you've got Mick Foley as Cactus Jack really showing you what he can really do when he's given a chance for a true hardcore match. Just you got a lot of the trash can shots. You've got fighting over the building. You've got
Sean. All right, that was a good debate by both of our competitors. We're going to go to the closing arguments. You get about a minute, give or take. So, Malcolm, whenever you're ready, you can go into your closing arguments.
Yeah, so reason Cena versus Punk from 2015 is the better match is the match itself told a story. It wasn't a culmination of any feud. It was just the match itself was a story. The problem with Triple H and Cactus Jack, like, it's not one you'll go back to rewatch. You can go rewatch Cena versus Punk a lot of time and use it to show people who had never seen wrestling a great wrestling match. If you show them the Triple H Cactus Jack match, like, people like wrestling, it's all about people hitting people with weapons, and they may not understand it in this day and age, and it's not one that you would really want to rewatch.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of what you're saying there is probably going to be what's used against you on your other topics. Because like that's pretty much what that one match is. But it just like I was saying, like not only did the Triple H versus Cactus Jack match tell a pretty good story in the ring, it had a good lead in with the history between them. It was the combination of the feud. And like I said, it brought in hardcore wrestling, and Cactus Jack, Mick Foley himself is everything he does when it comes to character wise. You get into it. Mick Foley's lovable. And how like you see it, Mick Foley, the way he sounds in the ring, everything like that, you can easily get into the match, and it's very very rewatchable. You can always rewatch it. Like I said, that John Cena CM Punk match, I don't really remember that too much. I do remember watching it, just like leading into it, but like I highly recommend everyone going back and rewatching this match.
All right, that was a really good debate by both sides. It's pretty close to call on my part, but let's start with our first judge of the night. Let's start with Matt. Where do you stand on this one?
Well, this is an interesting one because one of these matches I remember extremely well. When I think of Raw, this match comes to mind, and the other one not so much. And the match that comes to mind is Harley's with Cactus Jack and Triple H. As a fan of deathmatch wrestling, just the thought of the hardcore matches or street fights, whatever you want to call them, in WWE at the time were minimal. And this one, like she said, culminated the Triple H McFoley feud. So, in my opinion, Harley fought the best round in this fight.
All right, so Matt has started with Harley on this one. Let's go to Doug next. Do you concur with our first judge?
Sorry, Matt, I do not concur with you. Personally, myself, just so you guys know that I'm a fan of both these matches, but I'm more of a fan of the Hitman versus 1-2-3 Kid match. It's closest to my birthday, and that's why that match resonates with me so much.
I almost chose that one.
So, with that being said, I did hear a little bit more from Malcolm. Haley, I'm sorry, Harley. You did hit him in a couple points, but he kind of counteracted those points, and then hit you somewhere where you didn't hit. You hit him with the rewatchability, but he said where I think he brought it back was when he was talking about how much it meant. And I feel like Malcolm just hit a little more towards the question. So I'm going to give Malcolm my point.
All right, so it comes down to me. I found it ironic that Harley talked about the match that Malcolm chose wasn't as memorable because, ironically, they used that Punk Cena match in the Hangover 3 for the clip that Alan's wife was watching that exact match, and I remember that because it was like 7 months beforehand. So I actually thought that was kind of cool. But in terms of the actual debate, I like that both of you kind of went on different spectrums. Malcolm went, from the pure wrestling, and it was technical. It was I think, if I remember correctly, it was like the first time they used a pile driver in years, and it was like this oh my god moment. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Malcolm didn't bring that up. And then on Harley's side, the exact opposite. I mean, it was like everything that culminated into what the Attitude Era would become just a short time later. So kind of completely different matches on this. I think ultimately what it came down to, I think Harley just brought up a little bit more of the fact of what makes her match more memorable, more talked about. The fact that some people probably don't remember that Punk Cena match is a #1 contender match, which was not brought up, only brought up by our judges. I think Malcolm did bring it up. Now I remember that. But just sometimes some people might forget that, but everybody remembers the Cactus Jack Triple H match. So while I don't personally think it's the best match on Raw, I do think Harley brought the better argument to that. So I am going to give the point to Harley. So that will make it 1-0 in favor of Harley. But I really liked both sides of that argument. It was kind of a smart choice to go on completely different spectrums on that, and it really added to it. So also kind of interesting. Both of our players, they were kind of nice. They were just kind of testing each other out. Didn't really banter a whole lot. They let both each other talk a little bit. So maybe they're just testing each other out. Maybe they'll throw the gloves off in the second.
Would you say they're sort of baby facing
it? Very interesting. And so, with that said, let's now go to the second question. We talked about memorable matches on Monday Night Raw. Now let's talk about another specific type of match that many people have deemed to be memorable, and that is the almighty ladder match. There's been so many great ladder matches over the years. We wanted to ask both of our players, what is the most memorable ladder match? And we're going to start with Harley on this one. Which ladder match have you chosen for your pick as most memorable?
Unlike Malcolm, we both chose matches that with the IC title on the line. The match I chose is these guys. Once again, these guys have had I don't think these guys can have a bad match, period. But it's from Royal Rumble 2001, the ladder match between Chris Benoit. I know that that's a bit of a dirty word, but I absolutely love this. I love this match, and Benoit was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Despite what happened, like, he's a monster for doing what he did, but it's a wrestling. But it's Chris Benoit versus Y2J, Chris Jericho, for the IC title.
All right, so Harley has chosen Jericho versus He Who Shall Not Be Named. So which match is Malcolm going to select to counter this? We might have an idea what it might be, but go ahead, Malcolm.
The first one that came to mind when I thought best ladder match is the one that always gets talked about, and I do think it is the best ladder match, and that's Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10. This is one of those ones which, like, it's always in the conversation. It's just one that I always go back to rewatch. And I really don't remember Benoit versus Jericho at Rumble. It's just one of those ones which I don't remember. So this is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because if it's not for the botch at the very end, I actually like Shawn and Razor's ladder match at SummerSlam a year and a half later. I actually like that one a little bit more. I think that's when they actually tried to open the gates a little bit more on what they can do. But be that as it may, it's not up to me to decide what ladder match is most memorable. So without further ado, let's get into this very heated debate. The 5 minutes will begin when the first person begins speaking.
First, of course, this is not the first ladder match in WWE history. It's Michaels and Razor. They've both had several ladder matches, like you just mentioned, like the one from SummerSlam, which was better than this one, without the botch at the end. But just like with Benoit and Jericho, from the first time I've seen this match, I've loved this match. This is my go-to ladder match all the time. It's just like I said, Benoit and Jericho, their feud is almost legendary with how many awesome matches they've had, and this ladder match is no different. Unfortunately, unlike Malcolm's match, the ladder match isn't too much of a factor, really. There's only there's really too much. There's only like 5 or 6 spots involved in the ladder. One of them being Shawn Michaels doing a splash off the top. And with this one here, like, the ladder is an integral part of the match itself. It's like the match itself. It starts off aggressive. You can tell these two hate each other with how they start off with like fist fighting each other and jockeying for position, and Benoit gains the advantage by going after Jericho's injured arm at the time. And it's just such an aggressive, and the ladder match itself is like the ladder. Like I said, there's so many ladder spots in it. I believe there was about 16 when I attempted to count. And it's just like, and of course, it's sickening now that after everything, because it is something that I go back to, but it's the one thing that I really, really do remember. Jericho's on the outside after getting hit by, Jeremy's hinting at it right there, but it's Jericho's on the outside of the ring. Benoit's going for his suicide dive. Benoit takes the chair like a bat, just smacks him in the head. Like, it's like an absolute gunshot. And like Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon match. It's a good match. It is a good match, but is it a good or great ladder match? Not really, just because the ladder is not really a factor of it. If they just had a singles match, it would have been the same way. And in a way, the singles match would probably be better. And like, of course, like the amount of near falls in the Benoit Jericho match, where either one of them gets so close, but then either tips off the ladder. Jericho smacking Benoit in the back with the chairs, and then of course, like, and another epic shot, Jericho doing the walls Jericho on the top of the ladder, laying down.
Go ahead and get in there, Malcolm.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like for me, I disagree with the notion that a good ladder match has to have a lot of ladder spots. I mean, like
Yours does not.
Hey, as I said, I disagreed with it. That has to have because even though the Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon does not have a lot of ladder spots, I still think it is a better ladder match, a more memorable than Jericho versus Hero Must Not Be Named. Jericho's been in a lot of better ladder matches himself, so I mean, there's more that you could have picked for him.
I guess like there might be one. I guess this Shawn Michaels, but that's could be a little debatable. This match is just so epic. Like I said, it's like you said. Your match was the one you go to. This here is the one that I definitely go to. Like I like this. The drama in this match is just like when I was talking about like the near falls. Okay, climbing up, trying to get the belt. Your match didn't have a lot of that either. It was just Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon wrestling with each other most of the time without really using the ladder spots, which if you're going to have a ladder match, you kind of need to have the ladder involved in as a kind of like a third participant or like as a prop. Unfortunately, yours just doesn't really. And
yeah, but it's saying that like I always find like my favorite ladder matches have always been the ones in which the ladder's not used because I find you use the ladder too much, it can take away from the match as well. And that's like I did a quick rewatch of Benoit and Jericho because I just didn't remember it, and like yeah.
All right, I'm going to make a bit of a ruling on this because I probably should have stepped in a little bit earlier, but Harley did go a little bit longer than I was expecting to, and I probably should have gave Malcolm a chance to jump in a little bit quicker. So, Malcolm, I'm going to give you an extra 30 seconds in your closing arguments. I'll give you 90 seconds unless you want to, use your extension.
I mean, I'm fine with just a minute for closing. So.
Yeah, but because Harley did kind of jump in there. Yeah, so. If take as much time as you want, but try to get as much as you can in there. That's on me. I'll take responsibility on that one. So go ahead. Actually, we'll start with Harley because Harley started the debate. So your closing argument whenever you want.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, ladder match. You're looking for a match that involves the ladder for a decent part of the match itself. And like I said, this match had a lot of ladder spots in it. And of course, the ladder was also involved with the drama when it comes to the near falls, which is going up to getting close to grabbing the belt. And it just like there were several times, like the one time Jericho hitting him with the belt, with the chair, sorry, to take him off. Them both taking bumps over on the ropes. And sometimes the one time outside the ring, you had the walls Jericho, and then the way Jericho finally won the match was by pinning Benoit underneath the ladder to win the belt. And there were the drama in that match. Like I said, it's my ultimate favorite ladder match. It's the one that I'll always go back to. It's hard. It's a little hard too, just because of recommend it because of Benoit, but still worth watching.
I get used to unmuting myself. I'm not used to doing that. So Malcolm, whenever you're ready, take as much time as you want, however long you want to use. It's fine by us. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, as Harley said, like you need a good amount of ladder spots, but the problem I have with Jericho and Benoit is there's too much ladder spots. Like, I Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon is the one I always go back to, and it's one of those ones I enjoy. And like, for me, the ladder match has always been the first one to grab the title. Like, I don't always expect a lot of actual ladder spots, and it's just one of those ones. Like, I just get so excited watching it, because it's a mix of pure wrestling and ladders. And that's what I enjoy. For me, if there's too much ladder spots, it can take me out of the match. Figures like this is just the wrestlers are just using it as an excuse to whack each other with ladders, and it's just getting too much. So it's one of those failings which I think Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon is the better ladder match than over Jericho versus Ben.
You were done. I thought you were going to finish his name. I guess you chose not to. I liked both sides of the argument. Obviously, I like both of these matches very much. I think there was some really big bullet points that were kind of missed here, because the question obviously was most memorable. It wasn't necessarily, the best ladder match. I think it was sort of kind of points that were missed on the most memorable part. Like, in my opinion, I think one of the things that Malcolm could have brought up in kind of a negative for the memorable spot is usually we always talk about memorable as, where it happened, when it happened. I bet you could probably ask 95% of people where the Benoit Jericho match happened, and they probably wouldn't know that it was Royal Rumble 01 in the New Orleans arena. Many people probably don't even know that yet. When you think about Razor and Shawn, WrestleMania 10, it's in the Garden, grand stage of them all. I think Malcolm kind of missed a big bullet point there. At the same time, though, I think Harley kind of did the same thing. She talked about all the big ladder spots and all this, and it was just a ladder fest. And yet brought up that the biggest spot in the whole match was the frickin' chair shot, which had nothing to do with the ladder match itself. And in my opinion, highlights everything that was wrong with that era, where they just let those guys just kill themselves. It just makes no sense to me. But in terms of the actual arguments, even though I don't personally agree with it, I actually think that Harley did bring a little bit more to the actual debate, and I think Malcolm kind of missed some really big bullet points that really could have shot down Harley's argument there. So I'm personally going to give it to Harley. So let's go to Doug. Where do you stand on this?
With you, I 100% agree. You said the question is most memorable ladder match, and I think you guys missed key opportunities to bring in people that made ladder matches iconic with the Hardy Boys. Just that Hardy, Edge, and Christian and Dudley match, the first triple threat of a ladder match, that was by far my favorite ladder match of all time. Going off your arguments, again, you guys took the question as best, not memorable. And I agree with JTH that you guys missed a bunch of big bangs against each other to make this more of an interesting match. This one it's a little hard to side with one person, because the fact is that they didn't have enough. Not that it was that anybody was over speaking everybody, but there wasn't enough given for me to make the choice towards Malcolm. I have to unfortunately give the point to, not unfortunately, but I have to give the point to Harley due to the fact that I couldn't hear much from Malcolm about why Razor's and Michaels was the better, was the most memorable. Again, I think you guys missed a big bullet point by not including the Hardy Boys, because they made the ladder match iconic. Yeah, sorry guys, but overall, good fight, most part. But yeah, Harley is going to get my point as well.
Harley now takes a 2-0 lead, and Malcolm has kind of fallen into the danger zone here. He's going to have to get a point in this next question in order to keep the game to continue. And it's an interesting one. Now we're going back. We talked about being old. Now we're going back to the 80s. Probably most of our viewers probably weren't even alive during that time. Sadly, I think all of us were.
Yep.
Hi.
So we wanted to ask both of our players, who was the best heel in the WWF during the 80s era? There were obviously a lot of great heels during this era, but we had to narrow it down to two. So we're going to start with Malcolm. Obviously, this is a very important question. So who did you pick for the best heel of the 80s in the WWF?
Yeah, this was one that was really tricky for me to things like, because this was way before I was even a fan of wrestling. So and I was only up to 5 years old in the 80s. So but I read with Jake the Snake Roberts. This is one that's I've always sort of seen brought up a lot of times when people talk about best heels and that, and just seeing him come to the ring after with carrying an actual snake with him, like it used that to taunt his opponents and all that. It's just one that is really interesting. And I did sort of re-watch a little bit of him, sort of from some of these things to try and form an argument. So, but Jake the Snake Roberts is one that he's one that is always there, up there and memorable.
All right, so Jake the Snake is the choice for Malcolm. I like that pick. Jake was always one of my favorite wrestlers. So let's see who Harley will choose to counter.
Yeah, it was very, very, very important to make sure I answered and sniped this up as quickly as possible. Because when we were told what the questions were, because like there's only one person you really do think of heel WWF in the 80s. There's only one possible answer, and when you go with who was the best, this is not even debatable or questionable. It is the hot rod himself, Roddy Piper.
All right, so we got the Rowdy one versus the Snake. Obviously, very, very important. 5 minutes are about to happen here, so take it away. The time will start when the first person begins speaking.
Well, I mean, the thing is with Piper, it's like, his only, like, his heel antics the only thing people really talk about when they talk about his heel antics is bashing people over the head with coconuts, and but aside from that, like, he's really not that interesting as a heel. He's been more interesting as a face, and a lot of people, I find Jason more interesting as a heel.
Okay, let's just get these statistics out of the way right now. When it comes to basically the one and true really thing when it comes to when you want to do a year-end awards, and that's actually that does a lot. That's actually taken really seriously, and it's the Wrestling Observer Awards for Best Heel. He won in 1985, 1984, and 1986. Best on Interviews, 1981, 1982, and 1983. And of course, like, no one could rile someone up and get someone more angry, get the fans more angry, cause more heat than Piper just by speaking alone. Granted, Jake the Snake, he's good. Jake the Snake was never really a main eventer. And he was upper mid-carder at best. As much as I love his promo style. I love his psychology in the ring. But like, you would, you really wouldn't want in the 80s. You really wouldn't think of best heels. Like, of course, you got Piper, you got Savage above him. Hell, even to a point, Paul Orndorff, who for the period of 86, he was Hulk Hogan's biggest drawing card. But of course, like the early 80s, 83 to when he first started doing the heel, coming into the WWE as a top heel, he started the Rock and Wrestling. WrestleMania wouldn't have been such a big thing if it wasn't for Piper and people to see him get his ass kicked, and the heat he drew. Like, for example, the War to Settle the Score, which started off the Rock and Wrestling on MTV, drew a 9.1 rating, which is still the highest cable rating in pro wrestling history in America. That can't, because of the heat, and especially at the end of that match when he attacked Lou Albano, who had just turned his face, and then he attacked Cyndi Lauper, leading up to WrestleMania. His feud, like, I'll give you a little bit of time to talk. Sorry.
Yeah, but just because he started Rock and Wrestling does not make him mean that he's as a good reasons for why he's as good as a heel. Like, yes, and well, yeah,
it's not just that he did. He started it, but he carried it on for years, and he was he's the top heel that you think of in the 80s, like bona fide main eventer. Basically, the person that Hulk, for the length of time in the 80s, the person that Hulk Hogan drew the most money against. And also, WWF had two separate touring schedules at the time. Hulk Hogan was number one. The person who drew just as much as a heel was Roddy Piper for that period of time. Like, Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper, opposite ends. One's a babyface, one's a heel. They're both the top guys from the 80s. That you need a yin and yang. Piper's Pit. How many? Piper's Pit had so many memorable segments. Like you said, Jimmy Snuka and the Coconut, hugely memorable. You had the Hulk Hogan Andre confrontation on there. That wouldn't have happened anywhere else but Piper's Pit. Just because of Piper drew, Jake the Snake drew heat, and he did creep people out because of the way his psychology that he spoke about. But Piper had what is called super heat. Without a doubt, you hated him. People absolutely hated him. Like, sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Jake Snake is one that is a really interesting heel. Like, he doesn't have to do a lot. Like, with Roddy Piper, it just seemed like he was trying too hard to be hated. He was just trying too hard to, and like Jake Snake, like as you said, he drew heat and just fit. But it is one that, due to his gimmick, is a reason for a natural heat. With Roddy Piper, sometimes it just felt like he was trying too hard to be a heel. And like you mentioned earlier, that he was voted best heel. Nice. He was voted by an awards company that was voted on. Like, and awards don't really mean anything. Like, just because a movie is Oscar winning does not make it mean it's always going to be the best movie that everyone's going to like. It just means that everyone in that company liked Roddy Piper more than the other heels.
It's okay.
We're going to go to the closing arguments. Malcolm, again, it's very imperative that you get the point here. So if you need to use your extra minute extension here, feel free to say so, and your time will begin whenever you're ready.
I mean, the thing that makes Jake the Snake Roberts a better heel than Roddy Piper is because his gimmick itself and what he did with the snake, like he used the snake to torture his opponents after matches and all that. It's one that felt natural, like as heel tactics to draw heat. With Roddy Piper, like it just seems like he's one of those heels which like that just he likes spouting nonsense about whatever city he was in and which instantly draws heat because the fans of that city live there. Like it's one that he just uses all the classic heel tactics, just and those classic tactics tend to get tired after a while, as opposed to using a natural gimmick to draw heat.
All right, Harley, you can take it away whenever you're ready.
I'm going to use my extra minute just in case I need it. Yeah, first, the Wrestling Observer Awards is actually, it's not a really company because, especially back then, it was only done by Dave Meltzer, a singular person. It was voted on by the readers and a lot of also people within the industry itself who at that time secretly read it. Yeah, so it's the fans the vote and the readers, but it's also with Piper. You say that he used a lot of the kind of tropes, if you will, for being a heel. Those tropes were a lot of those he created. He invented them, like, and it's just like he tried too hard to get heat. No, you could tell that came so natural to him. Like that was absolutely natural as all hell to him. And you thought people got tired of it? No. He turned babyface, not because people were tired of it, just because it was time. And it was a little bit of. I apologize. I forget exactly why he turned babyface. But that's still, we're talking about heels here. But and it just as heels, very few has drew more money than Piper, who's brought in more fans who wanted to kill him more than Piper. And with Jake the Snake Roberts, he was a mid-carder, and you take the snake away, I guess he has nothing as a problem.
All right, let's go to the judge's decision here. Let's start with Matt. Where do you side on this?
Well, both of you should have thought of this. The biggest heel of the 80s was Hulk Hogan. Let's just leave that there. But depending on
that, though, can't.
But let's go to what was here. Malcolm only had really one bullet in his chamber, and that was the snake. And Harley kept bringing up various things that Roddy Piper brought. So, and she defended that by, if you took the snake away, what is he? So Harley gets the point for me in this round.
All right, let's go to Doug here. Where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, I disagree with everybody on the judges table and people again. Maybe I should throw my hat in the ring because I definitely would have went with Randy Savage. He got mentioned, but now again, it came down to who hit who more. We know who these people are. It's not like you have to tell us who they are. We need to hear who made the best villain out of these two people. I liked Malcolm's commenter where he basically kept saying his one hit that she wasn't able to kind of fend off was that he typically used the same move over and people got tired of it. Well, he just basically used these tropes over and over and he was tired. But Harley kept hitting him on facts after facts about, well, I agree with Matt where she hit him with the fact of, without the snake, what would he be? And I was just waiting for Malcolm to give me something a little bit more. So I do have to give the point to Harley. This round.
Yep, and with that, unfortunately, that is going to be a 3-round knockout in favor of our winner tonight. Harley Boric advances to the next round, where she will take on the winner of either Ryan Payne or Richard Schwartz. So let's get a comment from our winner. Harley, how do you feel about how you competed here tonight?
I knew I could really do good in final 3 questions. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the final one, which I was so badly wanted to do because, that match, everyone knows we don't need to go any because it might get used again. But I feel happy. I'm happy that I won. Malcolm, you did put up a good fight. I love talking about wrestling, so I'm glad I get to do more of it by continuing on into the tournament. So I know Mr. Carefree, so I kind of want to go up against him, or maybe I should be worried about the unknown and going up against the unknown. So with we'll see what happens.
All right, well said. So unfortunately, we have to now go to the second place finisher here. I'll do a Brady and Chandler and go to Malcolm. Didn't go the way I'm sure you were hoping for, but how do you think you can assess how you played here tonight?
It just comes down to preparation. I really wasn't as prepared for this match as I could have been. I love wrestling and I do love talking about it. I think, as opposed to continuing on and doing any more Chokeslam debates, I think I might just take this one loss and retire because as I said, I love wrestling, but I think debating it and trying to sort of analyze aspects of matches and try to find ways to try and poke holes in them is really not me. Because I really do love all the matches, even the ones Harley brought up. I had to try and find a way to try and poke holes but it was just one of those ones which just really I thought I could do, but I just really can't do it well. So yeah.
All right. So with that, we're going to close shop up here on this this match, Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. Let's go back to our winner, Harley. Where can the good people find you?
Of course, you can always find me all over the place. Full Metal Geek, I help with. I help edit the matches for all that stuff. Of course, over at Combat Wrestling Trivia, I also edit the matches for there. When is this going to be posted? Any idea?
It'll be in August.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. For Combat Wrestling Trivia, you should be able to watch our championship match with Andrew Hayes going up against the winner of a 3-way between Nico, Hunter, and Alec. As disappointing as it is that I got screwed out of being in that number 1 contenders match, but it is what it is. And just if you can always hit me up on Facebook at Harley Boric. That's all, I guess.
Alrighty, and let's go to Malcolm now. Where can the good people find you? I'm sure there's a lot of places as well.
Yeah, you can find me hosting Rankum on Take 3 Productions, hosting Full Metal Random on Full Metal Trivia, helping Tim Smith TV Throwdown on Multiplex, and Also hosting Late TV Fights, the TV Debate League, and as well for TMG Entertainment. So.
All right, so let's go to our first judge. First of all, big thank you to both of our judges who chose to take part here tonight. Let's go to Matt Graham first. Where can the good people find you?
You can find me at Facebook under Matt Graham. I judge almost lately every debate that's been going on in every league. You can find me on Mixcloud under DJ Carmageddon. You can find me on SoundCloud under the same name. You can find my DJing profile, KT Virus, on Facebook.
All right. I would go to Doug right now, but he's busy driving right now, so I'm going to give him the respect. Or if he wants to do it, go right ahead. Remember, don't talk and drive, folks.
I got you mounted, so we're good. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I have to go pick up my brother. It was fun. Check out Nerd Fights. Check out Game Drone. Check out all the Movie Battlegrounds leagues. And find me somewhere and talk to me, and we'll have a fun debate. Yeah.
And just remember, do not video record and drive, folks. It is very dangerous. And you can find me on Twitter at WWEJTH1. You can find me on Facebook, Jeremy Hastings, and I also do my own reactions on my own YouTube channel, JTH, where I usually look like a loser, get a lot of things wrong, but what else is new? I'm used to being a loser. So that's going to do it for this edition.
Cool in my books.
What's that?
I said you're cool in my books.
Well, at least that makes one of us. At least one of us thinks that. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. We will all see you next time. On behalf of everybody here, this is JTH, and we all bid you adieu.